our former U.S. Senator Kelly Loeffler back with us again. I am always blown away at how she loves the people of Georgia, and she goes any and everywhere to meet with people, look them in the eyes and hear their hearts. And before I read her bio, I just want to say something that has always so tremendously touched my heart about Kelly is I learned, and I know we all know this, but as I've gotten more involved in politics, really seen how harsh it can be. And I would watch Kelly and her love for the Lord, and she would never waver from loving the Lord, people, and never getting caught up in all the craziness that goes on. Just this beautiful way of staying laser focused on the mission, most of all on the Lord. And I just thank you for the example that you set of how to lead and how to run a race with such Christ-like integrity. I also want to brag on her. I felt like I needed a PhD to read her bio. Just saying. She's a businesswoman, entrepreneur, philanthropist, big time. This woman gives the shirt off her back to everybody and supports so many things that are about biblical values and, of course, about life. And former U.S. Senator from Georgia, of course, raised on a family farm, Kelly built a 3-decade career in the automotive and financial services industry, including as a senior vice president of investor relations, chief communications officer, and chief marketing officer at Intercontinental Exchange, and later as the founding chief executive officer of BAC. She is a CFA charter holder. She was appointed to the U.S. Senate in 2020, where she served as a member of the Senate Agricultural, Health, Joint Economic, and Veterans Affairs Committees. Today, Kelly volunteers her time, I love this, and resources as the founder and chairwoman of Greater Georgia, a nonpartisan statewide voter mobilization organization, and the vice chair of Citizens for a Greater Georgia committee working to elect conservative candidates in Georgia's state legislature. Can we please give a round warm of applause for Kelly? Sweet Kelly asked if we could do a fireside chat style. So I'm super extra nervous. I'm using my cheat sheet here of questions, but so humbled to have this time with you, Kelly. So humbled.
I'm incredibly humbled to share the stage with you because thank you. The introduction is very humbling. But I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. You could be anywhere, and you're here for friends and fellowship and for your values, and it just speaks volumes to each of you, and I just thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do, Suzanne, and Rachel.
She's somewhere.
She was out on the phone.
All right.
Got some sad news about that. Well, it's a privilege to have you, and I'm going to dive into the questions. Of course, and Pastor Joel so beautifully mentioned this, and we know this has been the most extraordinary summer, and many of you are here for our post-Rose celebration, and we have some extremely pro-life church leaders in the room. I need to mention Mike Congemi, who's with the Knights of Columbus, so pro-life, does so much for the conservative movement. Thank you, Mike. Dobbs is what's on everybody's mind, and especially going into November. So, of course, we would love to hear your reaction to the Dobbs decision.
So, to me, as someone who only served in the U.S. Senate for a year, but I've been a lifelong Catholic, I knew this day was coming. I really believed that it would be overturned, and not just because it was wrongly decided. I mean, this was something that scholars on the left and the right have said, Roe was wrongly decided. But I also felt that you cannot have this wrong in our society in the United States endure. And so when I got into the Senate, I very proudly, when I was appointed, said, that, I was gonna be a strong defender for life, that I was gonna go up there, and that was one of my main objectives in Washington. Yes, it was an election year, but it was still, it didn't matter, because when people say, particularly in Atlanta, they say, well, maybe in an election year you wanna, tone it back. It's like, no, that's why I'm there. That is, in fact, I put my hand up to run, to serve in the US Senate in Georgia, because when the heartbeat bill passed, I said, you know what, maybe this is a state where my values would be reflected, because I had looked at running for the Senate in 2014, and I felt like maybe the state was moving further center, and I wouldn't be that person that would, I'm not gonna become a centrist just because we're electing centrists. So when the heartbeat bill passed, I thought, okay, there is a place for someone with my values here in Georgia. And when I was selected, I just knew that I had to follow through on that calling. And so my first vote was to protect life. So it was the pain-capable 20-week abortion ban, followed by the Born Alive Survivor Protection Act. I voted in favor of those. It was shocking to be on the Senate floor and see every single Democrat say, no, we don't want to protect infants who are born alive. No, we want to have abortion on demand until the moment of birth. In fact, our 2 US senators up there right now support that. And it's shocking to think that that's who represents our state.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I was that strong defender, and I got attacked for it over and over, whether it was by Planned Parenthood on social media, by the left and the media coordinating to create all kinds of false attacks and character assassinations on me, death threats and everything. And look, I'm not someone who complains about death threats. When you're a public official, that's just what you expect. Like, get over that. We don't need violence in our country, and I condemn it. But they try to intimidate you through everything. And so when we had that chance to vote or to introduce, my first piece of legislation was to protect life, and it was through very common sense legislation modeled after Georgia's law, the women's right to know. So requiring an ultrasound and being informed about the risks of abortion, because no one talks about this. And so simply trying to educate, because on one hand, the left will say abortion is health care, but they don't want you to know anything about it. And they won't even really talk about it. They really want to shift over and say it's health care. So long story short, and we can talk more about the process through which that happened, it's certainly a miracle from God, and it's certainly something, though, as we know, we have to continue to be in this fight, because it's not over. It's not over at all. In fact, it's unfortunately going to continue to go on, and has probably just started. But we can be and continue to be we can continue to have a positive message. And I think that's so needed on every front, whether it's life or any issues we're facing today. If we stick with what Christ intends for our world, that we'll find the right answers through policy, because our nation has really become about policy, and we have to get back to doing what's right, not just what's left or right.
Kelly, how would you say that you respond to individuals who argue that the Dobbs decision will endanger women?
Well, it's just absolutely false, and it's shocking to me that this administration tried to create a disinformation board, and they've been the leading provider of disinformation and misdirection on this topic. And it's continuing in our own state. If you look at the advertising that has come out, whether it's Stacey Abrams or Raphael Warnock, the pro-choice pastor, talking about abortion and talking about the heartbeat bill in completely false terms. And they're really, at the end of the day, preying on women. and they're instilling a sense of fear where there's no need for fear. Abortion is not illegal in our state. There are 3 exceptions. They are not correct when they try to scare women to say that a miscarriage will be criminalized. It goes on and on. So what we're faced with is this really epic battle in terms of false statements, misinformation, misdirection, and the media being behind the left on that entire effort. And so we can't get hung up in that, though. We just have to keep doing the work. And so when people start to talk about it, just make sure they have the facts. And it's the facts are on our side. The facts are positive. They're setting aside everything that is said in ads. If you really look at what we're fighting for here, this is for quality of life in Georgia, which starts with life. And if we don't believe in life in this state or in this country, our values and the quality of what we have in America it's not even worth having the conversation. So we've got to start with life. So I will tell you that's why when Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, I was the first U.S. Senator to call for the appointment of a Supreme Court Justice right away. And people said, oh, it's too soon, we don't need to do that. Even some people on my side of the aisle said, we need to let this rest. And it's like, no, President Trump, Justice Kavanaugh, he had appointed Kavanaugh, we've got to fill that seat under President Trump. And so the other piece of this is just constitutionality. You've noticed the rhetoric has shifted recently just to say, abortion is a right, it's a constitutional right. And where did that come from? I mean, it's just made up in the media. It's not a constitutional right. And so having the Supreme Court, which is really the right venue to reverse the wrong that they did and to send it back to the states, this is the right venue. The 10th Amendment says that. And we have to continue to make sure that we have a Supreme Court that will uphold actual constitutional rights, not manufactured constitutional rights.
And I didn't even realize that piece of the puzzle, that you called for that. God bless you.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all remember the night President Trump had just come off the stage from a rally, and the media, he got pulled into a media gaggle, and one of the reporters said to him that Justice Ginsburg had passed away. And it's a really interesting moment. The president gets very alarmed, and he kind of says, oh, it's terribly sad. She lived a remarkable life. And the thing I remember playing in the background was Elton John's Tiny Dancer song, like very quietly in the background. And when you watch that YouTube of that moment, like he genuinely was reflecting on her life, respecting her life, as we do. And then, at that point, I just said, okay, we've got to make sure that we continue to keep the court strong. And so I was the first senator that said, okay, we've got to work on filling the seat. So and it was really amazing to have the opportunity to meet with Amy Coney Barrett before she was Justice Barrett. We did share some jokes about me being waitlisted at Notre Dame and her teaching there. So I said, I really have no business interviewing you. You got in and you taught there. I couldn't even get in. And thank goodness I didn't. I didn't realize the cost of private school. So I went to State University, like in the movie where they say, looks like it's University of Illinois. And it worked out great. But it was really amazing to be able to spend time with her. And then the night that she was, that President Trump announced her in the Rose Garden, and to be able to spend time with her afterwards in the White House, with her children, amazing children, just incredible parents. The kids were kind of standing off to the side, so I thought, I'll go over and talk to them, because how awful to be a kid at this event where the adults are there. And it was really a blessing to be able to slip away and talk with her children. So.
See, these are the kind of sweet stories we love that nobody ever tells us. It's so sweet. Oh, I love it.
Well, I was also, I'll just tell one more. I got pictured on the front page of the New York Times the next day, and all my friends on the left were texting me saying, "Are you okay? We understand that was a super spreader event. We're just checking on you to make sure you're okay." I was like, "I'm fine. Everything's good. We're good."
Oh, they never miss a moment. Okay. Do you think will abortion be a winning issue for the Democrats in November? I know you kind of touched on this, but how do you think that might play out?
No. Abortion as an issue, it's an issue for both sides. It's motivating our side because we want to defend life and we know that the battle's not over. The people on the other side are already there. There are swing voters today who have a range of issues, and when we poll for them, no matter left, right, or center, the issues are inflation, crime. Like, take inflation. The average family in 2022 is going to pay $8,200 more a year on basic living expenses. So in the summer, you probably notice the air conditioning bills go up. Well, in the winter, the heat bills are going to go up. We've been paying for gas, groceries, sending the kids back to school. Everything costs more if you can find it. Those are the issues that are motivating swing voters, not to mention crime. So this defund the police movement has impacted communities across this country. And people want to get back to having safety and security in their community. Issues like the open border troubles everyone because they say, I have needs in my own community. We need to take care of our folks. We've got to make sure that we're taking care of people. We have to have law and order. We don't know who's coming over the border, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of things here and upholding the Constitution and defending our country's borders. So there's so many issues. I do think the left is going to really try to make it an issue, and I think we just have to make sure we have the right information out there because they're running a massive disinformation campaign.
Kelly, what can we do as citizens to kind of combat that? I mean, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, there's a lot we can do, and we're already doing it. So the good news is the work has started. Y'all are doing all the work, and thank you for all the work you do with 40 Days for Life. I mean, my gosh, everyone, thank you all for all the work y'all do. If you look at what happened in the primary in May, so in May, we had the first test of the Georgia voting law, which the left made a big deal about. This was, suppressive and it wasn't fair. Well, we required voter ID. Election integrity makes sure everyone can vote. To me, that is voting rights when elections are fair. That helps make sure your vote is the same as my vote. Like, we each have our vote recorded. Okay, so we have voter ID. The left was coming out of the pool about it. And Republican turnout increased 98%. Democratic turnout increased about 31%. So overall, about 68% increase in turnout in the midterm. Wow. Women pulling a Republican ballot went from 46% of women voting Republican in 2018 to 56% this year. So women are moving our direction, and that's, exactly, hallelujah, because women have borne the brunt of the left's radical policies, whether it's inflation, crime, education, indoctrination, everything going on in the schools, schools being forced to be closed. Thank goodness for our Republican Governor Brian Kemp that reopened our state. And women have had to become educators and healthcare providers amid this pandemic. So they're moving to our side because they see what happened in blue states. you see what happened in Illinois and New York and Chicago. And I was telling some of my friends in New York that no voter ID. You can walk into any precinct, don't show an ID, you just vote.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure our state doesn't become that, because then nothing matters. It's very hard to have a policy conversation when you're not even sure your vote is going to elect the people you think. So we've taken care of that in Georgia. We've got to get the people back that stayed home in 2020, in January 2021 in the Senate runoff. We had 339,000 Republicans that voted in November that didn't come back in January. We've got to make sure everyone gets out. So that's why Greater Georgia has been very focused on reaching out to diverse communities, making sure that we have strong engagement of people who've been disengaged. We had about 900,000 Republicans that haven't voted in the last few cycles. We've got to bring them back. We also have registered tens of thousands of conservative-leaning voters. We've reached out to diverse communities. I've been doing roundtables, voter registration drives in the Hispanic community, the Asian community, the Black community, and making sure that we grow the tent every single day by not taking it down. And that's why we started our work in 2021. And by the time we got to 2022, we had tremendous turnout. And we're still on the ground every day. We're hitting about 4,000 doors a week. We've got text, digital. We're coordinating on the Senate Republican side to make sure that the campaigns have what they need through citizens. And so if you want to volunteer, if you want to get involved, we also have paid positions. We have citizens for a greaterga.com. Terry's back there, and I think Jeanette is back there as well. There they are. And happy birthday to Jeanette today.
Yes,
Jeanette,
happy
thank you
birthday,
for being
Jeanette.
with us. Really great member of the team, amazing. So Terry and Jeanette can help y'all if you want to get involved, either paid or volunteer positions, hitting doors. And the last thing is, don't be the silent majority. Like, be willing to do what you're doing today. And I'm preaching to the choir, but what's so important is having those conversations. We don't have to have debates. We can just have conversations and talk to people, because when they hear from you, their neighbors, their colleagues, your friends, they say, okay, well, this isn't so bad having this conversation, but the media and the left has tried to intimidate us not to have these conversations, because we have the facts, and the facts are on our side. They're on the side of Georgia. And so we just have to make sure that we're having those conversations. That's why I love that our organization is doing doors, because when you're at someone's door front, it's not as intimidating as those scary commercials that come down. And I don't know about you, but how many people have turned the TV off with these horrible commercials? I mean, I'm over it. They're full of lies anyway. But we've got to make sure that we're mobilizing and that we're getting people out that have not been out to vote, because everyone needs to make sure that they know that they have the power in this election. So we've got to get our state back on track. I think we can do it. And the other reason to have a really strong turnout in 2022 is to make sure that 2024, which is a presidential election year, which becomes a national dialogue, we've got to make sure that we own our issues within Georgia, that we're electing the officials, and this doesn't need to be the battleground. This doesn't need to be ground zero in 2024. We need to send the left packing and get the money out of the state, the outside money. Yeah. And if you look at, I'll give you last fact, if you look at the two governors, so I'll just go to the top of the ticket. I think Abrams has raised over 80% of her money from outside of Georgia. Governor Kemp has raised 80% of his money from inside of Georgia. Wow. That is people voting with their wallets. But the most important thing you can do is setting the money aside. It's just vote and bring people with you.
Yes.
We have our marching orders. That is so helpful, how you, in such a practical way, share the importance and priority of getting out there, getting people to vote, but the power of door knocking and being face to face. That is so helpful to hear. Well, Kelly, something I love about you, and I talked about this at the beginning, and you said you are a strong Catholic. I know your faith permeates everything that you do. That is very obvious in a very tough world that you've chosen to put yourself in. God bless you for it. Can you tell us a little bit about your faith journey, if you have a favorite Bible verse, your heart for the Lord?
Yeah, it's such an important question to me, and because I know you've got a whole program, I'll keep it brief because it would. I'm a cradle Catholic, but have embraced my faith from a young age. I was born and raised on a farm, grew up working on that farm. It's a very solitary life, like literally out in the middle of nowhere in rural Illinois. Our upstairs of our farmhouse didn't even have heating, so I could scratch my name in the ice inside my windows. And it's just a very hard scrabble life, but we never felt that we lacked for anything because we had a great education. My parents were incredibly supportive, centered in the faith, and we had what we needed and so much more. We had so much love, and church was such a big part of it. So when you're Catholic, you grow up going to catechism on Saturday mornings. Well, all my friends were watching cartoons on Saturday morning, but I loved going to catechism. And so I've been a lifelong Catholic, and I'll just say it informed so much about how I go about life. And my favorite, I'll say, instead of verse, I'll say chapter, because Romans 12 I love Romans 12, and I don't know, it speaks to so many different facets of work, of worship, of being a humble servant, of overcoming evil with good. And in fact, Romans 12:21, it's the last verse of that chapter. It says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And that I know resonates. That is y'all. And there are so many parts and facets of Romans 12. So I'd encourage y'all to go home and just read chapter 12, and it'll hopefully encourage you. And it speaks to everyone using their gifts. And that's what I see in Rachel and Suzanne. So Suzanne, you guys just really exemplify, using your gifts and overcoming evil with good. So anyway, that's my story.
Kelly, you just don't know what an honor it is for all of us in this room to hear your heart. And as the personal stories that you shared are so meaningful and so sweet. We so value. You are such a strong, godly woman with such a tender, humble heart. Is there anything that we've left out that you would like to share as parting words for everybody? And of course, we would love you to stay the whole time. We're not going to hold you captive if you need to go. You do that, but is there something else that I maybe didn't ask that you would like to share?
I did want to share, this sounds terrible, but I love How Great Thou Art. That's like one of my favorite. I've picked it for my funeral already. And so when you said Ali had played for my birthday, I'm like, well, maybe I'll play for my funeral too. But I mean, I welcome the chance to meet the Lord, so I don't fear my funeral. But I will tell you, I love that. So it's just so amazing to hear Alicia and Ali play that tonight, and their beautiful testimony and the prayer. I mean, I have to say that we're at this juncture in our country that I really do think that is such a meaningful sentiment to think about Reconstruction in so many different ways, where we are and the importance of renewal. So I just want to say I'm very humbled for the chance to be with y'all tonight, and just really grateful for the work that you guys do and the sacrifices that you make to take the stands you stand. I know some of the sacrifices that you guys take, that you've undertaken. And when I was in the Senate and being attacked or maligned or anything, I didn't take it personally, because I knew that was the cross to bear for what we need to do. And I was so glad to take those arrows and those accusations or the attacks and the portrayal in the media, because the only person that it matters what they think of me is the Lord. So, yeah, the media can say what they will, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So.
I think we've had our sermon. We can skip church on Sunday. Just kidding, pastors. Just kidding. Kelly, thank you. What a privilege.